Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Ultimate Doctor Who Marathon, where I take a look at every classic Doctor Who story, one episode at a time, one episode per day. And today, on the 2nd of October 2017, we are starting the final William Hartnell story, The 10th Planet, with The 10th Planet, Episode 1, written by Kit Pedler. And I have to say, after the complete bore that The Smugglers was, The 10th Planet acts as a breath of fresh air. The first thing that really strikes you is the direction of the story, mainly in the fact that it takes place in Antarctica, and because of this, we have quite a lot of stuff dealing with, just the Arctic freeze, a bunch of ideas of how cold it is, and it's really, really good. Derek Martinus really, as a director, knows how to make the episode seem very, very, very cold, only based on the fact that it's by doing the lights, keeping it in black and white, and everything, just keeping everything creepy. And I have to say that the plot is intriguing, though I think it takes a little while to get going. We have the Dr. Ben and Polly landing at this Antarctic base where they have a rocket they're tracking a rocket that is, I believe, just doing atmospheric tests, where we actually have two astronauts, one of them being black, who gets a majority of the lines as played by Earl Cameron, and Earl Cameron gives a really good performance, just something of note considering this is the 60s. But I'd also have to say that the episode continues on and has the Doctor and Ben and Polly, they've arrived at this base, and some strange things start happening. We get weird readings, and it culminates in a planet appearing in the sky, a 10th planet, estimated to be in between Mars and Jupiter, Venus and Mars, which is sort of affecting Zeus 4, and a lot of the tension comes from these astronauts, which I have to say, just because we're in the modern day, that kind of, it just sort of doesn't, the tension doesn't work quite as well for these scenes. You could easily trim them down and be much more tense, especially with where we're going for the story, but we have, this tense action going on until, of course, the planet appears, and then we culminate in a spaceship landing down, and these men coming in out of the spaceship, and it just, the reveal of them, one of the biggest reveals, they have these hands that are almost human, but they're obviously unaffected by the cold, and they just have these blank faces. This is, of course, the first design of the Cybermen, and this is the introduction that we're getting with I'm guessing, their planet, and it is an excellent introduction. The cliffhanger at the end of episode 1 is great. I also have to say, William Hartnell is a joy to watch. He is being hilarious. He's almost doing comedic timing in this episode, just sort of quick firing at the general. We also have the general of the base, General Cutler, he's an American, and he is hilarious. He is the rough and no-nonsense sort of, take no prisoners, here we go, this is my base, and I'm going to deal with it. So it's just this cast of characters that really gets you going, gets the story going, and makes the story feel much more fleshed out, so to speak, than some other stuff could be. So I think because of that, and because just how generally good we have this first episode to be, I'm going to give the 10th Planet Episode 1 an 8 out of 10, improving by miles from the Smugglers. So here's hoping that we can actually get this quality keeps up as we go further on in the story. It is the 3rd of October 2017, and I just finished watching the 10th Planet Episode 2. And I have to say, this, for the first time in what seems to be a very long while, I believe since part 3 of the Savages, we have a episode improve in score in the same story. The 10th Planet episode 2, well, it basically takes the story into almost a different direction. We have this 10th planet coming in the sky, and that is still a looming threat. And trying to get the spaceship down is imperative. But the Cybermen show up, and the Cybermen introduce themselves, and I love the design of the Cybermen in this story. They look very much done on the cheap, but that sort of helps the idea that they're like soldiers created all from spare parts and like just things that people of the planet had lying around. Like they all only have one or two weapons between them, but that weapon is like very powerful, and it goes a big threat. There's a lot of things that I want to talk about that's really good. I will get my one big complaint out of the way is that after the cliffhanger, we don't really go back to Snowcap for a bit. We actually go to Geneva to see how the rest of the world is reacting to this new planet, and it's not necessarily a bad scene. I just think it goes on for a bit too long. It's a scene that could have used a little bit of tightening up just to sort of make things work for the better and to keep the story a little tighter than what it initially is. The story is great as it is, but it needs that little bit of tightening to get everything to sort of flow better and just feel more like we have a good, solid story that's coming together. That's a problem. We have the Cybermen coming in, and they have a presence. This is where you get Hartnell's famous line, fear, love, hate, have you no emotions, sir? They really come themselves off like they're just bombarding around. They're like, oh, we don't care if we kill you. Like we can do this. They could do it themselves. They're just having humans trying to get the humans to cooperate just so they can have the humans, I guess, as their servants. And it is excellent. Like it is a great sort of villain piece where you have them really being evil. Like they are, and they're doing it. They're emotionless. They don't know, like they don't really get human emotions at all. And like it's just a great way of giving us a villain where something that really the villain feels inhuman. You feel very much like they're not something that where you can really be negotiating with. You have them the way they are, and that's it. Like it doesn't matter that they are going to be they're going to be the villains. They don't care, and it's great. I also have to say that Ben actually gets a lot of really good stuff here. Mainly, he opens the story episode by wanting to try to help. He wants to try to get the Cybermen so they can escape and get back to the TARDIS. So he grabs a gun and then gets locked up for it because it's like this Cyberman grabbed the gun from him. They bend it in half, showing like they're a force to be reckoned with. Like they are not an easy to beat force. They are here to basically they're here to pretty much take over the world, and that's the sort of where the story is going. They want them to take over the world, and it's great. It is an excellent way of giving them menace. You have again the Cybermen. They don't care who they kill, and like you have everybody at the base trying their hardest just to try to get these astronauts down, and they can't. They don't get them down in time, and we get this amazing scene. The astronauts die, like straight up, just end up dead, and the Cybermen, they don't. It's one of those things where they don't care. There is no sense of like, of just emotion, of sympathy, and Geneva sends up General Cutler's son, and that makes it personal for him. It really makes it a personal story. But then Ben gets locked up. He blinds us. He in a projection room, so he turns on the projector and gets the Cyberman to blind itself. And then kills the Cyberman, and feels actual regret for it. Now that's interesting because it reads very much like Ben still regards them as human, and that is great. That is one of those ideas that I really like. I hope it's explored more. I don't think it will be. It's a great episode for Ben, and then Polly also gets her moments to shine. She's much like Ben. She's like, well, you should care. They're people, and she can't even, though she can't seem to counteract but there are people dying all over the world. You don't care for them argument that the Cybermen present. And it's a great scene. It's gripping. The story just knows how to sort of hold on and grip you. And then, of course, again, Hartnell is great. So I'm going to have to give the 10th Planet episode 2 a 9 out of 10, because there is that slight little problem with the scenes at Geneva being too long, and the cliffhanger. The cliffhanger is great. It's like, the Cybermen are defeated in the base, but there are hundreds of spaceships flying in formation heading towards, I can't tell if it's Earth or the other spaceship, so we're looking at, this is like really trying to set up, and it's doing it well especially on such a low budget in the 60s, an interplanetary war. So yeah, this episode definitely gets a 9 out of 10. It is now the 4th of October, 2017, and I just finished watching the 10th Planet episode 3, and I have to say that the episode is the weakest so far. Sadly, we don't actually get the improvement that the story seemed to be going for. No, we actually get a very big sort of de-escalation, mainly because this episode feels very much, it's very much taking a sort of divergence from where the other 2 episodes have. We had a really good setup. The big problem is that the Cybermen have all been defeated on Earth, and we're just sort of, we're waiting for more to show up, and that waiting isn't necessarily bad, but it creates a need to continue the drama and the action, and, well, it doesn't do that perfectly. It's a decent enough story about basically prepping up that there's going to be a bomb, and that they're going to try to that General Cutler's going to try to blow up Mondes because his son has been sent up. It's personal now, and you see, it makes sense. The guy wants to save his son. The only problem with that is, well, you have that entire thing, it goes on for a bit too long, and sadly, because William Hartnell was ill when this episode was made, he doesn't appear at all. He is missing in action for this episode, and which allows Ben and Polly to have their own character study. Oddly enough, Ben gets to be the one climbing through the vents, whereas you think it would, the natural cause of things would be Polly climbing through the vents, and I generally find that kind of interesting and funny just to see that it's Ben this time. It's not Polly that's got to go through the vents. It's just it's just one of those weird little differences that I noticed. That being said, that being the case, we have a pretty good case to be made for this story being generally good, if only this episode being generally good, because it does do a good job at giving us a sort of a bit of fear to latch on to, and there's a decent amount of wanting to see everything end up well, and the story really does gives us something to latch on to in that regard. I just don't think it does nearly enough, and we have mainly the story just sort of petering out into a thing not to do it. Again, the absence of William Hartnell is really felt. His presence in the first 2 episodes, while he didn't have nearly as much to do, this just sort of makes it feel like he's walking away from the part, and it isn't worth it. It really isn't worth it to have Hartnell missing from the episode. So much so, I think I'm going to have to give the 10th Planet Episode 3 a 6 out of 10, because the story just suffers. Hartnell's gone and the story suffers. That's all I have to say. It is now the 5th of October 2017, and I just finished watching the 10th Planet Episode 4, and ending the story is a bit difficult, because this episode, it doesn't seem that the writers knew how they wanted to end it, honestly. The episode, you have Ben being put into a room to try to dismantle the rocket after the Cybermen invade, and the Cybermen take control of the world. Like, they are powerful. They know what they are doing. They very much create a this great power dynamic for the characters, like, and they take back the base. They have the world taken over, and really it's Ben trying to find a way to stop it. They take Polly hostage and the Doctor hostage, but it isn't until it isn't really until the end of the episode that anything really happens. Like, they introduced the idea that Mondas, because Mondas has been absorbing the energy, really, it's just, the episode only stops just because, the time for absorbing energy has passed, and so Mondas is now breaking up. That's my biggest problem, is the ending. The leading up to the ending is pretty good still. You have, again, the Doctor and company still being enjoyable, even if Polly is captured, and the like. But, it is enough to say that Polly being captured is, just enough to save quite a bit of the story. Polly gets quite a decent amount of things to do, and the episode ends with enough and I guess you could call it finesse, just sort of to make it feel natural. And I'm not against that, making it feel natural, just because it works. It works. You have generally, and then that's the end of the episode. Pretty much the plot wraps up. Everything ends. And then, of course, you have the kicker, the cliffhanger that leads into the next story. You have Ben and Polly being locked out of the TARDIS. They come in and they see the Doctor. The controls are moving by itself. The column is rising and falling. And then you have what is essentially the Doctor falling down, light coming over his entire face, and now, and he regenerates. He turns into a different person, and it's a great scene. Like, it's really, really well done, in my opinion. With just the fact that clip actually exists is great. That now that we know what it looks like, and so the Doctor is now a different actor, and that's where we're gonna be leaving the story. That's the kick. So that ends us for the William Hartnell years. I don't know what else really to say. You just sort of you have this feeling of finality to this episode that works really well. It works well, and we have enough to say that it is good. And it's a decent story to go out on, but just seeing that we have it's just this great sense of finality to it. At least that's really all I have to say. And I can't wait to see how this new actor Pat Troughton picks up, and see how the stories in sequence seem to, stack up to Hartnell, because honestly, we've had a bit of a decline in stories recently since the Daleks' Master Plan. Before it's been a bit spotty. The quality's been generally good, but it seems like the quality of the episodes we haven't been getting. We haven't been getting many 10s, but we've been getting quite a few 9s and things. So I'm going to give the 10th Planet Episode 4 a 6 out of 10, just because a lot of the story itself is not very good. That being said, we average out the episodes of the 10th Planet to get a 7.25 out of 10. Thank you, everybody, for watching the Ultimate Doctor Who Marathon. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, and we will return with a overview of the William Hartnell era for the next episode.